Greetings, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. For those of you that are new here, I am a professional intuitive empath. It's so good to share energy with you. Thank you guys for inviting me in. Come on in, and let's chat a bit. You read the title, and so let's talk about this. If someone has gone rogue on you midstream of your relationship or connection, you do not have an opportunity to litigate that or negotiate that or renegotiate that in the heavens. If that happens, it's above you, okay? Now, what I want to share with you guys is that there will always be, and pardon me, I'm doing my hair. There will always be a let's say a threshold, a moment of opportunity, a space that allows for negotiation and honesty. The way that I always phrase it to people that I'm ever in this situation with is, we're always being tested. And I, too, am always being tested. You guys are always being tested. My Earth Angels, we know that. We're very attuned and keen to that because our karma seems to hit us a lot faster than it does for other people, right? Well, when you are being tested or someone else is being tested in your relationship, it means that there is a certain period, like with any standardized test, it's timed. And I know that may seem like a little daunting, right? But it's timed. So you could be friends with someone for 1 year, 2 years, 15. But when they start going rogue, that's when the timer begins. So let's talk about what going rogue means. Well, that means when they start to choose a lower vibrational way of thinking, speaking, or behaving towards you. And it's usually done because they have become some level of archon, bafflement, imp, some kind of little devil that's plaguing you. This is real spiritual warfare. So sometimes these people have entity attachments, and it's not easy to just diagnose. It's not like a one stamp fits all. And again, we're talking about metaphysical and esoteric principles, but we do know that our battle is not with our flesh, but it's definitely with principalities. And there are principalities that will be attached depending on what your mission in this life is. And everyone here has a mission. So you don't have to be grand and lofty, and you don't have to be famous, and you don't have to do any of the things. You don't have to be on any of the socials. You don't have to be on the YouTube streets. You have a mission in your life. If no one's ever seen you besides your community, you have a mission in that community if you are an Earth Angel. So when that happens, it's very much like a video game. There are people that are going to be dispatched in to get you off your path. Now, the easiest way that we can take a look at it, and a lot of the ways that many of us came to this work, is via a toxic third-party dynamic and someone who became, or someone, a karmic that interfered. But the thing to understand about that word karmic is that we all have been someone's karmic. We all have had karmic behavior. We all did not come here evolved and pristine and metaphysical and shiny. We all have maybe treated someone poorly, or been inconsiderate, or been incredibly selfish, or purposely selfish, or withholding, or stingy. Any of the things. And sometimes maybe we've actually been a third party. So, I know in my life, I have hit all those notes I just said. So, I come here teaching you, but it's not because it's something I haven't been through or done, and maybe even done to other people. And so, it's something, even if I can date it back years, the thing about karma for us practitioners and also Earth Angels and light workers is that it hits us pretty quickly. We don't usually get away with a lot. But we do have a mission, okay? And that cannot be forgotten. And guess who never forgets it? Whatever lower vibrational entities that will see you and have jealousies or want to gossip or malign you in any kind of way or capacity. They never forget. And it gets very tricky as you start to pass more and more tests in your spiritual warfare and you get better at discerning it. That's when you have operatives, secret spy, turncoat operatives that come in. And what that means is that people that are family, friends, lovers even, people that are spouses, people that are sisters, brothers, cousins, people that are your favorite mentor will turn on you. And It's not something you can predict, but there are some rules that I want to teach you about how to navigate it, okay? And I want you to see what's happening as it's happening as well, too. So what happens when people start to turn on you, it could be for any reason. You could have said something to them. You may never have even known that you've triggered somebody, but then now they've turned. And things like that can usually be cleared up pretty quickly. Pardon me if you hear any modulation in my voice. I'm doing my little birthday due. My birthday is today, folks, for those of you that are listening, August 4th. So in any case, so I will be on later live today to spend some birthday time with you. I think it's so important when you're bringing in a new solar year, very appropriate for Leo energy, is that you spend the day with people and or doing things that you would like to usher in on your solar return for the next year. And so my angels have been very clear with me as we were days away from an 888 portal, which is hugely a big deal for me for a lot of reasons. 88's also my anniversary. It's do you know what today is? Little distraction, guys. But it also 84 is my birthday. So a lot of fun energy for me as I'm really being purposeful and intentional about how I begin this new solar return. In any case, message for you, it doesn't matter when your birthday is, when it's happening. You'll probably be clearing up a lot of things in the previous months leading up to your birthday, a lot of purging, and we happen to be at a retrograde and all kinds of things happening, and I'll talk about that later today. New moons in Leo and all kinds of interesting things happening. But we also, it doesn't matter when your birthday is, whether you're a Leo or not, happy birthday to my Leos. You should be thinking about what's happening about 2 months before your birthday, because you will notice trends that are ending and new things that are beginning. And then you can be very intentional on the date of your birth, beyond having fun and celebrating. And I've done lots of that in my life, but this year it's about work. And so I wanted to start it off right. So we literally are at the stroke of midnight starting it off, even though I was born a couple hours from now. I love my birthday. It is so symmetrical to all of the numbers that I love. Anyway, back to this. When someone goes rogue in your life, kids, what you need to understand is that this is also part of God's plan. What are you talking about, Monette? Well, you are imagine yourself in a video game. You know, we talk about being in the Matrix, very much that. People will turn, and it's to test you, it's to sharpen you, it's to make you stronger so that you can become a spiritual fighter, so that you can discern, because you don't know what your mission is. And even if you do know what your mission is and you think you're on your mission, there are people that are dispatched in to get you off your mission, to be tricksters, to be deceptive, to really test your mettle and see if you've strengthened your intuition. And if it's not just random people, after a while, then what they will start to do, it's allowed too. It's sanctioned spiritually. And I always think of Job, who the devil petitioned God and said, hey, Job is like such a goody two-shoes. Can I mess with him? He had to ask permission from God before he could send pestilence, plague, and death to Job's door. So I know, cosmic trick, they're watching us down here like Netflix, but it's really true. And so there will be people around you that will turn on you, and that will become archons and become demonic with entity attachments. And I don't want you to think of it as so deeply biblical, because it could be as simple as someone that's gossiping about you. And if you don't like that, then that's something you don't like. And that could be a test for you. Now it gets a little trickier. It's easy to cut someone off that's gossiping about you. That's someone that you just met. It's harder when it's someone that you have vetted, someone that may be in your family, someone that may be a dear friend, a spouse, a lover. You get it, right? And so as you level up in this video game of life, you'll have people that come in that have maybe been part of your life for a long time, and then they choose not to treat you right. Now, I also don't want to play innocent here. There may be a reason, a real reason that was legitimate that triggered their behavior, but that was a test for them too. Even if you can take acknowledgement of it, apologize, and say, okay, I can see how this went off the rails. But if you're trying to fix it, and you're trying to derive clear communication and live in your authenticity and speak truth to the situation, and then they start to move grimy and then start to play with you, then there will come a point where it's not something that's any longer negotiable. It is above you. Years ago, there was a guy who had a very racist woman come into his hotel and started to decry him and be racist and spew hate, but she needed his help. And very much you guys will find yourself in similar situations, minus the race, hopefully for you. But what he said to her by the end of their interaction, when she was like, I need a room, and she's in tears, and she's sorry now, she's attacked him, but she's sorry. And he's like, it's above me now, meaning he was saying management has to deal with this because you've said all these things about me, and I have to, like, disengage from this. It's almost like when a judge might recuse themselves from the bench if there's a conflict of interest. Well, if you, or if, let's say, a lawyer maybe recusing themselves from a case if there's a conflict of interest. When you are in these moments with people, it doesn't mean that they are inherently and will always be evil. Because the thing to understand is we have all been someone's karmic. We have all been someone that has not treated someone well, maybe not told the truth, been selfish purposely, etc., myself included. Absolutely. Again, our karma hits us a lot faster, right? Guys, you guys know exactly what I'm saying. I don't get away with anything. It happens immediately like a boomerang for me. And that's why I really have to live in integrity, even if I don't want to, because I'm mad or I'm human or I'm in ego. I am challenged daily to be ethical as possible, because otherwise there are repercussions that are intense for me because I'm held to a different standard, because I am tasked to teach, right? So I can't, and that doesn't mean that teachers aren't wild, and we have not seen corrupt teachers too. So I always want to be fair. That's why I always say I am no one's guru, right? You will have people that come in and out of your life that are here to teach you lessons. Well, some of these people will be lessons, and then some of them will absolutely be lessons. And the tricky part of the spiritual warfare is that someone that was once a blessing to you can quickly become a lesson for you. And the reason that's happening is it's because it's there to sharpen your skill set, your ability to discern, and ability to pull back or to cut off or to set boundaries. You will be tested with that. And I promise you, the harder tests come when someone's been well vetted and they are part of your friend's family, or they are your spouse. Very much, we've all heard sleeping with the enemy, okay? And so there comes a point in any test that's happening in our relationship dynamic where there is a period of grace, right? So I think of like Amnesty. I used to be a librarian for a little while I lived in Alabama. And Amnesty is a period where if you have overdue books, you can bring your books back in, and on this certain day for however many hours, you will be forgiven. You don't have to pay any fines or penalty fees or whatever. There's this like period of grace that's given to you. When any relationship is going off the rails, whether it's a romantic one, a platonic one, a one that is between an employer and an employee, there will be a period of time where we truly are being observed like Netflix from the cosmos and from God and the angels and the pantheon of your spirit team, your ancestors. And they're watching to see what's going to happen between you and whomever is being allowed to test you. Again, I mentioned Job, right? So God the devil petitioned Job again in order to be able to even bring pestilence and plague and destruction and death his way. It was done with permission. And I know that may seem like some sick cosmic joke, but sometimes it's the life we're living, right? What I want to do is teach you how to navigate and understand the rules of engagement when you're in that situation. That was very much part of God's plan to strengthen you and to sharpen you so that you can survive whatever it is that you will need to get through. There is a period of grace that will happen when someone goes rogue. That's what I call it. And I want you to think of it like maybe a zombie. If a zombie bites someone, if you guys paid attention to any zombie movies, then what happens is they will quickly turn into a zombie. They might be able to hide it for a while that they're a zombie, but eventually it's not able to be hidden. It's very clear as limbs are falling and they're foaming at the mouth and they're chasing you and they have this blood, lust for eating you alive, right? Well, spiritually, that's what's happening. It's pretty much that. It's just as gruesome. Someone could become disfigured spiritually right before your eyes. And you have to decide if you're going to lead with a heart of compassion, or if you're going to shoot them, speaking, pew them, excuse me, spiritually speaking, between the eyes. If in a zombie movie, if your dad is bit by a zombie and he's coming after you, he's still your dad. You guys have that history. But he is sick at that point, and it could cost you your life. I want you to take it just as seriously when it comes down to your interpersonal dynamics and relationships. I don't care how long they've been there or how short they've been there. Now, to be fair, I will say that I find it a lot easier to cut off people that have not been there long, right? It's very clear to me where things are about to go wrong. I also do this for a living, and I have real clairvoyance, clairaudient, clairsentient gifts where I can see specifically and hear and get dreams about when things go off the rails. So that's one thing. But if you don't feel like you're that tapped into your gifts, or maybe you are tapped into your gifts, I promise you, this is a crisis of consciousness that each one of us come to when it comes to having to pew spiritually the zombie before you, whomever that may be. If someone's gone rogue on you, and if they are slandering you, gossiping about you, if they're jealous of you, and you may not have done anything really to provoke it. When I say we've all been someone's karmic, that is to own that we all have been existing in toxicity. We all have not been awake. We all have had lower vibrational energy, for goodness sake, and for evil's sake as well. And so you need to know that about yourself. You are not a perfect paragon of, magic. And there are things that you may have done to hurt someone or slight someone. But if you are addressing it and you're trying to talk to it with someone and deal with it, and you're doing it on the up and up, and you really are trying to clear it, and you're coming from a heart of authenticity, God sees. Your angels see, the ancestors see. It doesn't matter what the zombie before you is seeing or saying, or what they're spreading as they're doing a smear campaign, because these, in other words, for zombies, it's narcissists, and not everyone's a narcissist. Some people are just a low vibe tribe. Some people are toxic. Some people have narcissistic fleas. Some people are full-blown narcissists. You have to discern what you're dealing with. But what I'm telling you, that's why I just say zombie, because it's easier, a more blanket statement there. But what I'm telling you is that when someone turns, you can pray. There's time for prayer, but there's not time for deep evaluation, because you have to immediately engage self-care and self-preservation, which is the first rule of survival for us, okay? So if your grandmother that has been sweet to you all her life for some reason decided she's turning on you, then boundaries must be set with her, right? Okay. And if it's someone that is your spouse and then they start to turn on you, boundaries still have to be set in that house. And it's not something that's easy to do. Now, when it gets to the point when but here's the thing. It's not something that's easy to do, but with practice, it's something you can do, you will do, and you will become fantastic at. And unfortunately, it's because you'll probably be tested repeatedly in various situations and to varying degrees. The thing about setting that boundary is not just the boundary setting, but the communication. Should we talk about this? Is there any way that we can reconcile? Let's figure out, where were you coming from? One of my favorite quotes is by Zig Ziglar. It is, seek first to understand and then to be understood. And when I say we all have been someone's karmic, it means that we've all made someone not feel good, whether we meant to or not, in our hubris, in our youth, in our immaturity, in our naivety, in our callousness. We all have a full range of human emotions, and we are all under our ego, right? At times. And so it means that you might need to figure out, I first would say this, attend to the wound, whatever it is, and say, okay, how did I help to cause this? And take some inventory. But if you realize that you're really just getting slights and someone's playing in your face and they're lying and they're not being honest with you and you can't get a drop of authenticity out of them, then what else are you supposed to do? But here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about. It's not just that it's above you and you just are like, well, I give it to God and oh well. But they are being tested too, because they were not always evil, or they were not always angry, and they were not always jealous, unless they were, and maybe they were just getting revealed. But in most cases, there's something that changes and turns the tide to reveal the zombie inside. And so you might want to identify what that is so that you can compassionately say, hey, is this a thing? Unless you're really dealing with a narcissist and there's no negotiating with that kind of terrorist, and that's a different story. And so I would always try to have connection with someone and fix and mend and attend to. But what I've gotten better at as life has gone on is realizing when the zombies want to end you. And I can see it with my clients, and I can see it in my own life and how it plays out. But the grace period is what I want to really talk about. When you are mending any friendship, whether there is a full-blown zombie or not, or any relationship or any lovership, right? You have a period of time when you both can actually appeal to each other's better sensibilities, and you can come clean with honesty. Even if feelings were hurt, even if there was real jealousy, even if there was real anger, even if there was real slights, even if someone felt left out, even if whatever, you fill in the blank to whatever may have triggered the situation to cause someone to go rogue. Even if all of those things happen, friendships can be mended, relationships can be mended, people go to therapy, you can maintain the job, you can set boundaries with whomever, the colleague, the whatever, you fill in the blank for who it is, the family member. But when you've had that conversation and you think you're going forward and then someone devolves back into a level of pettiness, now we're dealing with entity attachments, because they may just want to reel you back in so that they can stick it to you. And to second guess yourself is to subject yourself to a lot of pain. But in that moment, because again, the relationship was not in vain and it was not superficial, it was not just something that was there. It was actually, and not just there to cause you despair. It had a purpose at some point. It edified you. It lifted you up. It made you feel great for both of you, right? But every relationship will be tested in the dark of the night and maybe in the day and the light, okay? And if you are not coming with your heart open and honest, then that means you're dealing with someone that you could be a zombie, they could be a zombie. And so to make this a little less confusing, in my case specifically, I've dealt with so many zombies. And when it happens each and every time, that grace period is being observed by the divine, not by me. I am not the keeper of time, but I am observing, because if I'm coming honest and I think they're coming honest and then we still have passive aggressive behavior that's seeping out of their pores afterwards, what we're dealing with is someone who has gone rogue. They are a zombie, they have entity attachments, and they might be dispatched to get you off your path. And you may say, Monette, well, how could that be so? How could that be so if they loved me so much, or if they were my whomever, fill in the blank, and I trusted them and we cultivated a relationship? Well, every relationship, again, will be tested. And during that test, there is a threshold and period of time for whomever is on either side to get it right. So if your responsibility in this, let's say you feel like you are watching someone go rogue before your eyes, what do I say first? Attend to the wound quickly. Assess it before it really gets through their bloodstream, so to speak, and assess it and say, okay, what did I do to trigger this, or how could I have helped this, and can we be honest and have a heart-to-heart about this? Once you do that, and it's still, they're devolving into, you know, Dante's Inferno, then, and the 7 circles of hell, then you don't stay anymore, because now there's a story to tell that's emerging, okay? Also, the divine is observing. I have noticed so many times after breakups with people that then they just want to tell me everything. Or after I've called someone out on behavior that's bullshit or bizarre, some trash-ass behavior I've been tolerating, dealing with, whether I was people-pleasing, being codependent, whatever thing I had to tweak in myself. Also, there's a lot of intel on the other side for you. So it's not just like, what did that zombie do? There's a reason that you may have hesitated to set a boundary with a zombie, and that answer can only be found in you. So, empath, I'm never letting us off the hook over here. I want us to be evolving always and taking a look at really what we might need to repair. So I know that I've stayed, for example, in connections and relationships longer out of codependency, out of familiarity, and out of people pleasing, right? So as I have done healing, the duration of time that I stay in those connections when I know that something is off is less and less and less. And I've been tested with every single relationship, not every single one, but meaning in every category of relationship. So whether it be a family member, whether it be a lover, whether it be friends, whether it be colleagues, workers, employers, not every single one, not every single time, but I can say from every one of those categories, at least once in my life, I've had to have the test in order to see if I was justified, if I was doing my best, if I really was assessing the situation, was I coming with a heart full of authenticity, was I playing mind games in return to be retaliatory? These are questions and some self-inventory that you want to ask yourself. Well, let's assume you've done all that self-inventory. Now, you have to figure out how to put a zombie on the shelf. During that time that you're observing that behavior, so is the divine, is what I'm saying. And they can come to you with sincerity and apologize to you, and they can change their behavior. But what I was saying is that I have found after I have set real boundaries and I stood up, you know, the meme that's like, stand up, stand up. When I stand up and stand on real big business, then there's this profuse overflow of genuine apology. And here's where I want us to divorce our ego from our reality, okay? Because a lot of us think our ego is our reality, and it's not. It's a separate thing that wants to never lose control. So it will go to great lengths to keep us in the seat of power, when sometimes you may need to bow out of something before you get devoured. Real talk, your ego will get you devoured trying to like go tit for tat with somebody, okay? But when you are observing that, or when the divine is observing the time frame of that, and people come in and they apologize profusely, and then all of a sudden they're willing to give you everything you ever wanted. You know, how many clients have I counseled that have been like, he wouldn't give me this, he wouldn't give me that, he wouldn't marry me, he wouldn't go on vacation with me, and then they're just broken. I think I saw a thing recently, a short or a TikTok, where a lady was like in racking, sobbing tears. She's not my client, but she was just so upset because she was with someone for 17 years and all she wanted was vacation, and they finally divorced, and then he's calling her within a year because he's taking his new wife and their kids on a vacation. He would never do it for her. And so those kind of things can make you insane, right? But that is the games that people play sometimes. And so what I want you to understand about the apologies and the promises that come afterwards is that they don't mean it. That's one thing you need to know. And so that doesn't mean that they get to be recused or they get to be exempt from whatever happens to zombies, whatever the zombie treatment is going to be, because they have plenty of time and opportunity throughout the duration of the relationship to give you whatever it was that you were requiring or that you needed or that you wanted, right? If they can only come to it afterwards and now they're just so passionate and they've only ever loved you and they don't understand, that is not God's plan. God's plan was for you to see that so that they could be exposed, so that you could know that's the way that they would always choose to go. It wasn't until I started putting boundaries up with people that all of a sudden they were pulling rabbits out of their hat for me. All these things that I had asked for simply, that I had inquired about, and I just accepted the cold, shut down ass rejection sometimes of the situations. But after I was like, okay, well then I'm out. I'm absolutely done with this. And also you've gone rogue, so now it's dangerous. Then afterwards, and then I could have anything I wanted. You could have whatever you like. All of a sudden they're TI. All of a sudden, it was throw it in the bag. I could have whatever I wanted. Their love, their time, their affection, their attention, a vacation, you name it. It doesn't matter. It's been all different kinds of situations in my life. And maybe you guys can see some parallels in your stories too. People always will overgive to you after they were being breadcrumbing, stingy, and withholding from you. And they didn't give a damn. That's their real truth, okay? And so during that testing period, there is a bit of amnesty. The angels are like, if you guys can both work this out and talk and hug it out and do what you need to do, then we can reset the relationship. There'll be another layer of growth added for you. You'll really deepen in appreciation. I've had those relationships. I still have them to this day, where instead of running away, when one of us went rogue in any capacity, it was addressed and talked about, even though it was hard to do, and passive aggressive behavior in the future did not ensue. You guys get it? See, how people feel about you will seep out of their pores. So if someone's like, I'm not upset or I'm fine, the truth will be told in time, because their behavior, they can't help it. There'll be little biting remarks, there'll be little jabs, there'll be purposeful orchestrations and grand plans to manipulate you or to see you down bad in any capacity. And so, don't pay attention to what people say, pay attention to what you see. But guess who's looking too? The divine, actually. And if they can't get the apology with sincere action and follow-up to happen in a timely manner, and we're not setting the timer is set by our spirit team ancestors and angels, then the relationship is something that they can forget, because you are not obligated to go back. Now, the first time you do this, you will be weighed down with guilt. I know I was, okay? I knew what had happened. I could see where it went off the rails and whatever, but the way that someone dogged me out and decided purposely not to show me love, I could not reconcile it. And it was when I was up against the wall like that, my angel said, do you want to go back? Do you want to look back, Lot's wife? Because there's nothing there for you. You think you made a sacrifice. We think you saved your life because it's the only thing you could do. Because if you would have stayed, that person would have unalived you. Spiritually, actually, really. That's what you're up against, guys. And our compassion will have us writing checks that our ass cannot cash when we're trying to stay and help give a zombie a salt path to wash their demons away. Purging yourself of entity attachments and lower vibrational thought forms, if you want to make it more simple to look at and make it more palatable, is not your responsibility. It's the person that's dealing with that entity attachment to be honest with themselves and to live in reality. And if they can't do that, you can't do it for them. And I know that's confusing, right? Empath, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting. That's part of our codependency that we're healing from, right? That's part of our former people pleasing, right? Where we're like, you tried to bite me, but I'm going to spend the night here trying to help you rid yourself of the very evil in you that wants to unalive me, energetically, figuratively speaking, respectfully. So that's not something that we're called to do. So the first time you cut someone off, it's going to hurt you. You're going to feel bad. You're going to ruminate over it. You're going to feel terrible. I want you to understand something. People project energy onto you. And these are all the powerful lessons that happen when you go through a spiritual dark night of the soul or two. And I learned that a lot of my emotions, because I am an empath, were not my own. Meaning, because we had a soul tie and a connection, because in any of these people, you can just blanket state them as a soulmate, if you will, because they came in to meet your soul and to help you evolve to some degree. So they are a teacher and a soulmate, actually. And so you are tethered in a way to them. They are connected to you. You guys can feel each other's feelings. There was a good relationship to whatever degree, whether they were your spouse, your family, your friend, you name it, right? And you will feel their feelings because they want you to. Now, the more spiritual warfare I've been through, the less I care and the easier I detach from feeling someone else's feelings. Now, another thing that happens too here is in the observing, it's not just the divine, it's you too. So if someone is lying to your face and saying, I am fine with you, we're okay, we don't have any work to do, I've pushed all the bad feelings away, but they're treating you badly, that actually works in your favor. I'm cueing Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Someone that is once your ally, in order to distance himself, you will have to make them your enemy. Now, you do not have to make them your enemy, but what happens is when these zombies go rogue in your life, they make themselves your enemy, where you're now disgusted by their sight. You are now repulsed, turned off. So if you ever liked them, or if you ever attracted to them, or if you ever felt like you had them on a pedestal, or if you ever were like, oh my gosh, this is the best boss I ever had, or this is the best family member, this is my favorite cousin, this is my blah, 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 blah. You fill in the blank. Their behavior makes them so stank, is the word I'm channeling, makes them so unappealing that you are literally running away. I'm channeling Pepe Le Pew, that cartoon where Pepe was like, I'm going to love you, I'll hug you, and kiss you, and squeeze you. And then whomever was in Pepe's arms was always, he was a skunk too, so that part. But whoever was in Pepe's arms, yeah, stank, skunk, thank you, angels, are like connection, was just dying to get away from him. Okay? Because that's what will happen when a zombie's chasing you. Now, that's a natural runner-chaser dynamic. It gets flipped and reversed. Except it sinks in your soul and your stomach. And I think it's worse than just a regular runner-chaser dynamic because you're actually disgusted by them. You're actually turned off by their inauthenticity. The more you start to heal, empath, the more you start to do your spiritual work, light worker, the more you start to actually ascend energetically, spiritually, and emotionally, earth angel, the less attractive whomever, you know, attractive is relative again. It could be a family member, it could be whatever, but the less appealing, maybe that's a better word, that connection will be for you, because you are not vibrating on the same energetic frequency any longer. If someone's living in inauthenticity and you're living in truth, you are not aligned. And there's only one thing for you to do, is to go your separate ways. And don't make it be a long time. Meaning, don't take your time. Get out of there post haste as quickly as possible. Because what happens when you stay past that period of amnesty, past the grace period when the angels and the ancestors are sanctioning resolution, conflict resolution, apologies, reconciliation to any degree, when that elapses, it elapses, and now the zombies are free. And they're fully juiced up with all of their emotional bacteria, and they are coming straight for you. And you have now forfeited some lead time to escape, which is what the angels wanted you to do. Because if someone's playing in your face, and if someone's gaslighting you very specifically, let's get real clear about what's happening, and they're wanting you to, they're telling you that the reality that they're serving you with their actions and behavior is different than the reality that you're actually seeing. Or what they're telling you one thing, but they're doing a different thing to make it more clear, then that's your responsibility to get out of there. It's on you. The onus is on you to get out of there. But there is a timed amount that they have to get right with you. I remember dating someone, and her behavior was atrocious. And it was not atrocious on one day. It wasn't atrocious on 2 days. It wasn't atrocious for a couple of months. It was atrocious for like almost a persistent year. Meaning, and atrocious, let's be real, I want to be so clear here. Of course, there was moments that were nice. But the behavior that made me disgusted, and that was turning me off, and that was a repellent to my very spiritual moral compass, to my own emotional integrity, spiritual integrity, was behavior that she exhibited time and time again to me. I'm getting tinglings on my left side of my brain. That has to do with mother and nurturance, which I think is really ironic for that person's situation. It was like the African-American version of Grey Gardens, to be honest, is what I was observing. Shout out to anybody that's ever dealt with a mama's boy or a mama's girl. In any case, in that situation, what I was dealing with was someone who made, whether their mother had influenced them or not, you know, we all are autonomous, and she was grown-ass adult. The decisions that she made and the choices that she made to treat me in the way that she did, to create confusion, to be purposely obtuse, to create subterfuge. The devil is the author of confusion. So that's how I look at it. It's very clear cut to me. And unfortunately, what I always say to you guys, the face has changed, but the behavior remains the same. And that's how you know you're dealing with someone who is enmeshed, entrenched, and enrobed in their toxicity. And they're not giving it up for you, because their ego is attached to that. That's their identity. One-upping, lording over you. You guys give people a huge ego when you love on them in whatever capacity. If they're your favorite cousin, or if they're your favorite friend, or if they're your favorite ex, to whatever degree. And people that may have had some inferiority complexes all of a sudden switch it and reverse it and start to really live in this egoic, eccentric energy. And it's really a sad sight to see, because they go down bad. Because when you pull your energy away, then it's back to their reality. And it's always sad. It's always sad. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't have their own redeeming qualities. I'm just saying, you guys know, if you know exactly what I'm saying. We give a lot of energy to people and build them up, and then they can start to be wildly ungrateful, and the universe keeps account of that. It's above you. It gets above you. Because when that relationship ended with that ex, and she wanted to spin the block, I was like, where was all this behavior when time after time, decision after decision, you sized me up, assessed me as a sucker and a stupid mother, you figure out the rest. And I was like, wow, you don't actually care about me. You don't feel these things. What you feel is maybe rejection, maybe slighted, maybe like I got the jump on you, whatever the case may be. That's what I'm saying. Pay attention to your intuition, guys, and set yourself free. But it wasn't because she wanted to bring me back into her reality to treat me properly. Because if she wanted to treat me properly during that period of amnesty, during that grace period of like communication and seeking first to understand before you're understood, that would have been something that she would have held up to, and it's something that she would have done, and she would have treated me good. Like she treated other people. good. She's capable of it. It was just not anything that she felt that I, quote unquote, deserved. And that's where you guys had to separate your energy and not internalize that as your worth. I knew my worth. I was observing her, and I really learned so many lessons about projection in that. In other relationships, let's say with friends, when things have gone bad, there is a grace period where you can attend to it, you can clean it, you can pour the peroxide on it, you can bandage it, and you guys can start to move forward. But if someone's still holding a grudge on you, that entity attachment will be on them, and their whole mission is to get you out of your calmness, to get you out of your peace and tranquility, to get you to show some emotion, because they want to fight with you, because that makes them feel something. They want to siphon your energy. That's why they want to fight with you. It isn't just to fight, because they are being now operated. It's like when a zombie is no longer at the helm of their brain, it's like it's taken over. So what's taken over them are the archons, the imps, the demonic attachments, the entities. So even though you're looking at someone and you're like, oh, you look just like my spouse, or you look just like my friend, or you look like my family member that I've loved and known all these years. But what's happened is they have an entity attachment that is now in charge of the gears. There's someone else running the show. So they were coming at you and at you and at you again, because they think you don't know or don't see. And sometimes some of them are unaware, and sometimes they're very aware that they've given over their energy and that they're mistrusting of you and they're thinking the worst of you. And it's really there. What I will suggest for you guys is that you'll really meet a lot of people in your lives in that moment, in the fight. There's a fantastic quote about that. You really get to know a man or a woman when you have a fight with them. And it doesn't have to be physical. It can be spiritual. I really got to know people that I thought I knew so well when we were in Dante's seventh and ring of hell, because they decided that's where we should go, no matter how much I wanted us to grow, no matter how much I wanted us to let it go. And they thought they had all the time in the world. That's another thing that I think actually works on our behalf, empath. Because of our previous codependency, people-pleasing tendencies, people think that the relationship will last and last and last. I am a Leo. You guys heard me talk about birthday time. Loyalty is literally ingrained in my sign. It's really a part of me. So when someone's disloyal to me, that's the cardinal sin. If they're gossiping, if they're doing this and that, and don't let me be able to prove it, I become a whole barrister. I'm a whole lawyer over here, okay? Don't let me, because what it is I don't just know it and I can prove it concretely. I'm hearing it spiritually. So it's a full frontal attack on me, because I'm now having to deal with all of this. And I love my peace. And I think a lot of you guys can relate to that. Your peace over everything. I'm not really ever about looking back, because no peace did they bring. And as soon as they stop bringing pleasure or happiness or fun or levity, not all relations are always kumbaya. It's okay, but if they didn't want to do the authentic work with me, that amnesty period is over, and it's above me, and it's above you too. You guys get it? There's nothing you can do. You can't save your zombie family member. You can't go back in for your zombie friend. You cannot rescue your zombie ex that would like to spin the block again, because their behavior that they demonstrated to you was factually the truth. It is exactly who they are. And when you unmask them, you can't go back. And if you're dealing with a real narcissist, we all know when you unmask them, you better run, sis, because they never, ever, ever forget that narcissistic injury when you tell them to their face, I see you. You know I can see, right? You know I can fucking see you, right? That part. So I do not want you guys to think or beat yourself up and be like, oh my God, well, they were trying, and then they just slipped back into treating me like crap again. That was all orchestrated. Some people just want to pull you back in to pummel you and punish you, or to just have an ego stroke, like, I could get you back. And here's what I want you to get out of your ego. I got off track with this, but a lot of us in the beginning of not healing, we're on some, I got that comeback, okay? I remember talking to a client. It was like, I got that comeback, sis. And I'm thinking, I don't want you to have the comeback. I want you to have that walk away and never look back. You know, when people are like, well, if I leave, will they chase me? Do you want to play games? Are you back in elementary? Because when I leave, I don't give a damn about whoever is in the past of it. It has to be some incredible extenuating circumstance where God himself, herself, God, the entity God itself intervenes and tells me, you need to spin the block here, or allow this for whatever level of healing or whatever the case may be. But I will tell you, more often than not, whenever I've even allowed that, even with the guidance of spirituality, people will try you again because that's the way it will be. Robert Greene has a great quote where he talks about the fact that once someone disrespects you, they will always seek to disrespect you again because they want to see if they can get away with it, because they got a power trip off of it, because maybe you were delicious to them. And empaths, we know that we are narcissist catnip. So maybe you were the most delicious supply they've ever had. Maybe they loved seeing you cry and they loved making you feel bad. They had no control over their life, or their life was falling apart to whatever degree. So projecting their misery onto you was a fun day. It gave them so much energy. And that's why if someone really wants to reconcile with you, they will do it within a time frame. I know you guys listening here have experienced people that have made up with you in a reasonable time frame, and then you guys moved on and you never really had a hiccup again because you both admitted where you were right or wrong, and then you move forward and you decided to stay friends, lovers, family members, you name it, right? And then there's also people who have wanted to come back in only to repeatedly treat you like shit. And what do we know, guys? People will only do what you allow. So do not allow them proximity to you. When I realize that someone has gone rogue, I treat them like they have the plague. It's the only thing that I can do. And I only do that because I've learned over the years the way that they will try to break through your boundaries again and again, and then play into your fears and talk down to you. And what people will do is tell on themselves. When people have gone rogue and when that zombie entity attachment is there and they're dealing with that, I realize what they really think about me because it'll come out of their mouth. And my mother always taught me, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when someone says something wild or irresponsible or toxic or abrasive or rude as fuck to me, I'm a teacher, so I'm like, would you say this to X, Y, and Z? Would you treat your last spouse like this? Your last partner like this? Would you treat your last friend like this? Would you treat your favorite family member like this? And if it's just some behavior that's relegated to me, and I want you guys to put yourself in my shoes there, guys, then oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light that this whole around you was never going to treat you right? Or they always wanted to pick a fight, or they always felt that jealousy in the dark of the night. They were in competition with you in weird ways. That's one of my least favorite things that happens very often because of my sign specifically. But people will be in weird competitions with me that I didn't even know we were in. And I'm like, oh, y'all want to really play? Well, here's what you don't know about me. That's my ego. I'm going to win. And even if it means just extracting myself from it, once I know we're playing, then I'm like, okay, well then let's play. Let's play then, if that's what you want to do. And remember what I said, cautionary tale. That's how your ego will get you. Okay? So I really pray for guidance now and realize it's not worth it. I take a bow. I say the nice things I need to say. I do an exit interview always with whomever it is, whether they realize what's happening or not. Sometimes you can actually do that with somebody and say, hey, this is what's going on, and this is how I feel, and this is just not working. And sometimes you got to do it in creative ways. But either way, I always let people know about the objectives that I wanted to meet with them, what my intention and purpose was in the relationship, and also why I can't stay in it, because it would be me broadcasting to the rest of the universe and every narcissist within a 50-mile radius that I want more of that treatment. And that's the real reason that it's above you guys. Sometimes you have to get out of it. Not sometimes, always you should. Because if you allow someone to treat you like that, then other people will do the same too. Just me being around someone who wasn't living in their authenticity lowered my vibration, even though you think it won't, it does. And it brought other people that were low vibrational to me. I was having this weird string of crazy time. And when I really got to the root of it and ripped it out by the root, I realized very insidiously that it was because I was in a connection with someone who just wasn't really living in their authenticity. And it wasn't always just shots directed at me. It's just that their life wasn't honest to some degree. And just being around, we become like the 5 people we spend the most time around. So whoever you're spending that much time around, doesn't matter how integral you are, what kind of spiritual walk you have, how much work you've done, how good you're at the spirituality, you can be easily brought down. I once had a pastor do a fantastic demonstration, and he said, I'm standing up on this chair, and he said to the person, now I'm going to pull you up on the chair. And he was able to pull the person up on the chair, and then he said, now pull me down off the chair. And much faster, in a split second, the person was able to pull him down. When someone's in a lower vibrational energy, that's what they want to do. They want to bring you down. They may not even understand what drives them. You know, I saw a zombie bug recently come across my shirt because my angels must know I was going to teach this lesson. And so it's this carcass, literally, that has been taken over by a parasite that's still working the brain. It's a nightmare. It's like the stuff of nightmare sci-fi movies, but it's still working the brain of the bug. And so the bug is literally hollowed out and eaten by whatever else, but all that's alive is the brain, because that's what the parasite needed. So low vibrational people just want to get your energy. They just want to be at the helm of something, because a lot of them don't feel in control of their life, or they're not happy, or they're existing in some level of misery. And that doesn't mean you haven't been there too, empath. So we're not going to be all goody two shoes again about that. But it means that we've ascended past it. We've worked through it. And here's how you know someone won't feel like a vibrational match to you. You'll be turned off. You won't be interested. You'll be bored. All of the things. These will be tells that you are no longer interested in the connection. And the only time I've ever lost interest in the connections is when people have gone rogue on me. It's not just a natural thing that happens where I'm just like, I'm bored, it's Thursday. I, again, believe in longevity and loyalty. My ideal is to have relationships that span the test of time. But when I do feel that, what I had to learn was to override my codependent, people-pleasing tendencies to make a relationship last, where it was just me doing all the work off the basis of my loyalty, and the other people were treating me like a freaking jerk. They were treating me like the scum of the earth. They were treating me like I was beneath them to whatever degree. And again, the angel said, oh, say, we do see. And so they give you that period of amnesty to work it out. And what that is an appeal to the other person before they've fully gone rogue, before they're fully a zombie, to communicate what is really the issue, what's really hurting them, what was the trigger, so that they can ascend too. Because that's what it means when we're saying, are you going to do your spiritual work? Are you going to come along with me? Am I going to come along with you? Are we growing together? That's specifically what that is a reference to. In those moments of pain or disdain or dysfunction in a relationship, if both parties can come and actually communicate and talk about it and speak the truth of whatever was the issue. If you're dating someone and they're breadcrumbing you, and if someone, you call them out on it, and then they actually are like, you know what? I was doing that, and I was doing it for this reason. It doesn't mean that it absolves the pain you felt or that the reason goes away, but it means that they were willing to do the shadow work that day with you, and that's what that is shadow work. To say, this darker side of myself was playing this game with you, and I don't even know why, or maybe I do know why, and here's the reason. Very often we do not get that, right? It would be ideal. But when you confront someone and you're direct and you're honest and you're like, hey, what's going on? And they still want to cause confusion and exist in subterfuge. I don't care about whether they can communicate or not. I don't care. I mean, everyone can communicate. People that can't speak communicate, okay? So we all can communicate. So stop making all these excuses. I hear clients do that a lot where they're like, he's just scared of my love. Bullshit. Because for the person that he's ready to communicate it with, just like that lady that was crying on the TikToks, 17 years she couldn't get it out of her husband, and the next year for the woman he wanted to, he did. If they want to, they will. Authenticity can happen. I know it happens because I've experienced it. I've given it. I've also had it given back. I also know that someone's not really willing to do their shadow work, and they don't know when that cosmic timer is going to go bing and time is up. I had a situation where one time in my life, I was calling someone out on their lack of authenticity with me. They weren't telling me the truth. And I was like, you know, what is happening? And this is just a friend, right? Platonic friendship. But I was like, what is happening? This is weird. We're getting weird. What's going on? And they kept assuring me that we were fine. We dealt with it. Everything was fine. But what was oozing out of their pores was this toxic, low vibrational energy and a lot of spiteful games and things that were very familiar to me. Again, the face has changed, but the behavior remains the same. I'd already dealt with that with another ex or another ex-friend or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, God, this seems awfully familiar to me. Are you sure you're okay? Oh, yes. And then I spoke with someone in their family who was in their own sweet way, you know, kind of running interference. And I wouldn't even call them a flying monkey. I actually feel like their intentions, to the most part, were pure. Really, I really do think that. They just wanted to mend, actually, you know, because when you guys are off with people in your life, you know, other people are privy to that, just so you can understand. Sometimes they're flying monkeys, but in this case, I will give the benefit of the doubt here. But in any case, the one conversation that I had with this person who was, you know, excuse me, the vested interest that she had was that she wanted peace, for sure. In one less than an hour conversation, all of my clairaudience, clairvoyant nudges, all of the angels tapping me on the shoulder, all of the things I physically observed with my own eyes were all validated. And the person was spending so much time gaslighting me and did not want to just be that authentic with me, but she had been authentic with the other person. She was so clear, and it was all cleared up, and it could have been that clear during that period of amnesty. It could have just been easily mended if we would have talked about it. It didn't even have to go that deep. But because literally the next time I was like exchanging communication with her, she still was lying to me. And I was like, well, I now have fact checked it. You know, when you do your long multiplication, I've now checked the math, you know. So before you could say, you know, ostensibly, oh, you're crazy. Like, where did you get that? People always try to gaslight you about your intuition. And that's one of the things I abhor and despise the most. It makes me hate people, actually. I'm being too diplomatic. I really, that is something that makes me sick physically to my stomach, for you guys, for myself, for my clients, for anybody that I love. Gaslighting, that is my, like, that'll make me, I have so many feelings about that. Especially if it's for someone that I've loved. Oh my God. In any capacity, platonic, friend, employer, whatever you may be, family. If you try to gaslight me and you want to be in my face, the gloves are off. You're going to see a completely different side of me. And so, when I was done with that connection, because I was like, well, I just spoke to someone who was 1,000% authentic with me and I felt very balanced and fair. And then you're still operating out of duplicity. And then bing, the cosmic timer went up. It was not only above me, it was out of our hands. I will never allow myself to be around anybody like that would spend that much time being dishonest, because what she wanted was for me to be proximal to me, so that, what she wanted was for me to be proximal to her so that she could get me back, which is what she'd begun to do. It was like this, like a, what do you got? No, like a bloodletting, or like a slow, like death by 1,000 paper cuts. She wanted to, like, repeatedly punish me because she felt slighted, instead of us really dealing with whatever the situation was. And her choice to repeatedly live in authenticity was the final straw. And I hope for you guys, you don't have to go through all of that. You don't need to check the math and whatever the case may be. The reason that any of that happened too was because of the duration of the relationship and her proximity to me. Guys, that will be a place that you get tripped up. Someone is a zombie, they're a zombie. And there were people in my life that have been actual family that I cut off faster than I cut this person off, because I just didn't want to see that she was a zombie. I didn't want to see the level of disrespect. I didn't want to believe the gossiping. I didn't want to believe all of the things that were such no-nos for me. I didn't want to believe how she threw me under the bus. I didn't want to believe the turncoat of it all. I just didn't want to believe what was right in front of my eyes. And that almost cost me a little chunk out of my life. You see, that's why I'm asking you guys to be a lot more expedient, okay? But when I do swiftly cut off, then the cutoff is forever. That's just one of my own personal rules. I never return to any endeavor that ever cost me that amount of time, pain, or energy. But what I will tell you is this. And it doesn't mean that the people will not persist and continue to try to gaslight you and continue to try to get in your energy, because how dare you at this point? And I was so clear with her. I was very honest. I said to her, I'm not going to keep paying and spending time and investing energy for you to treat me badly, for you to be mean to me. Like, it was absurd to me. Like, I was laughing when I said it because I wasn't angry anymore. It was so clear to me exactly what was happening. And I was like, this is, why do you, people are wild. They hate you, but they want you to stay. Like, please don't go away so I can hit you to your face. Treat you like crap to your face. Try to pass off and project my complexes and insecurities to you and make you feel like doo-doo. Like, girl, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, and then at that point, if I get to the point where I'm laughing and it's funny to me, I'm absolutely done with the connection in every capacity. I want you guys to have a similar resolve, maybe not having to take as long as I have in some of those cases, but as I continued along the battlefield of life, I will tell you, it was easier and easier to cut off a zombie left and right. As soon as they turn a zombie, I'm like, it's above me. You're rogue. I'm not negotiating with you. You're an actual terrorist at this point to my life. You are causing terror and sleep to be deprived and all of that as I'm trying to deal with your nonsense. And all I'm trying to do is mend it. And if you don't want to mend it, then let's end it. That part. maybe all of that talking can be surmised to that. If you don't want to mend it, then let's end it. And it doesn't have to be a let's. It doesn't have to be a mutual agreement, because when that cosmic timer goes up, ding, and the amnesty period is over, you what am I trying to say? All is fair in love and war. I don't care how you end it. At that point, and neither do the angels, because they gave them plenty of time to actually get right with you and to get right with themselves. The reward of actually doing shadow work when it's tough like that in any connection, no matter the dynamic, platonic, friendship, employee, family, is that there's an opportunity for growth for both people in the energy of that relationship. You will grow and they will grow, and you will both be dealing with your shadow, and you will ascend together, and the cords of the relationship will be tightened and strengthened like a braid, like I'm holding in my hand right now, a braid. It gets tightened, and now you are woven into the tapestry of each other's life, and you go on into the future, and you look back at that later and you say, you remember that tough moment? That sucks, but we got through it. But it only can be got through if they're being honest with you, if they're not holding a grudge with you. And you don't have to wonder, and you don't have to call a psychic, and you don't have to ask your favorite teacher or mama, are they holding a grudge? Their behavior will tell you. And don't listen to what they say. Listen to what they show you. When I felt what I was going through, and when I was dealing with what I was going through in that friendship dynamic specifically, the things that she did were toxic things that only one other person had done to me. And that one other person was my toxic twin flame. And so I knew it was not a place I could no longer be. She was doing very specific things. And that is another thing. She knew about those things. So it's very possible that she did them purposely and intentional. People will want to hurt you. You know, there's a whole thing going around like, don't tell your new person what your last person did to you, because they'll try to hurt you. Well, it's terrible that we have to guard ourselves that way and that we can't be transparent or whatever the case may be. But here's what I will tell you about anybody that's toxic or in a lower vibration. Whatever their toxic trait is, and we all have one, okay? They will tell you what it is, okay? So there hasn't been anyone I've ever dated or been friends with that hasn't gone rogue and turned into a zombie with those specific people when that happened, that didn't tell me right from the beginning how they treat people when they feel upset, or how they don't conflict resolve. I had an ex who was like, I don't talk to the people. I just do what they're doing back to me. Like, she didn't know how to communicate. Or another person said that someone had said, some employee of hers or employer of hers had said that she was inauthentic. I later saw exactly what that was. I had someone else who was like, someone said to me, my ex told me that I was selfish, this and that. She ran down the laundry list, and before our time had commenced and I had to do the zombie cutoff with her, I also saw exactly what that ex was saying. Sometimes empaths, people will come to you and they will tell you their deepest, darkest, or their actual like toxic traits, because they want you to absolve them of your guilt. Of their guilt, excuse me. And they want you to, maybe they don't even have guilt. They want you to absolve them of whatever they feel, like whatever the other person made them feel by pointing out the truth to them about who they were. They want you to be like, no, you would never be like that, whatever. And guys, I'm going to give you a cautionary tale. First, it's great intel for you. So pay attention when because people will tell you who they are. They really will. Pay attention, okay? They will always tell you a truth. And then later at the end of the connection, you're like, oh, so all those things that you said that your ex, whatever, it was really, okay, got it. Or you really were, whatever, your so-and-so said, or this is what they're talking about. And again, I want to be so fair to the fact that your light may have irritated their demons. Maybe to everyone else in their life, they'll be a peach. Who knows? It's not likely. Usually that behavior is repetitive, and it's something that you can see in various relationships or dynamics. But we all have been forgiven. We all have not been amazing, right? So I would like to give a little grace and compassion to that degree, but no grace and compassion once you're dealing with a zombie. But they will tell you about how they're going to treat you, or what they do to not conflict resolve, or to escape out of something, or not take responsibility. It'll be all there front and center, and that's a lot of good intel for you. And as Robert Greene recommends, if you can avoid people that are toxic, he says they have a way of embroiling you into their shared fantasy, which is what narcissists do. And not I was a narcissist again, but toxic people will embroil you, and they're charming, and they know the right thing to say, and they're so helpful, and they're so altruistic. And this is another thing that happens too with a covert narcissist specifically. They're fantastic pillars of the community. People love them. Everyone loves them. Everyone loves them. And it's really interesting until they start torturing you. In any case, pay attention, because they're going to tell you what they're going to eventually do to you. And I had one thing happen to me in my life where someone came in and they told me some sob story about something that was going on. And guys, I would say I'm an ambassador for race and racist people that may not realize what's going on in their life. That's just like the lot in life that I have. And I was absolving them of something. And by the end of the relationship, when I saw how they had treated me, I realized that I had to put some extra stuff on my ancestor altar and atone, because I had maybe given a pass to someone that didn't deserve it. I thought, if you could treat me, someone that you quote unquote love, this way, then what did you do to those women back then, back in those days? It made me sick to my stomach, really, because I was dealing with a different reality. And here's the thing, guys. People, that's why I'm saying, don't be so quick when you get into these new relationships with people. Pay attention and really observe them. And maybe that absolution that I offered her was not my place to offer, because I wasn't there to see what had happened. And maybe she didn't do what they said, but I could only juxtapose the treatment that I received that was low vibrational, underhanded, sneaky, plotting, scheming, purposeful, intentional, backbiting, bitchy, mean. And I thought, well, that's probably how you treated the team. You treat me that way, and you love me. You love me, right? You love me so much. And how did you treat them? You got to be careful, guys, because people will try to tell you what they want you to know. But if someone has gone rogue, please quickly let it go, because you'll save yourself a lot of heartache and time. When I have prolonged relationships out of my unhealed codependency or loyalty, misguided loyalty, it has been me that's paid the price. And that's the thing that happens in any karmic relationship. It'll start to cost you something. So whether it's your finances, emotional time, your health, autoimmune issues, you will pay the price for it. And when I overrode, there was a moment in some friendships that I've had where someone went rogue, and immediately when they went rogue, my angels paired it up with other rogue things happening on the same day. So they were making it very clear to me, like, don't look away, this is happening, this is really it, this is a tower. And my angels told me, cut this person off right now. And I did not. So what I did was I allowed them to try to devour me subsequently in increments for the next few months, because I refused to give a blunt cutoff, because I was operating out of misguided loyalty. So I'm never going to come on here and lie and tell you, y'all, I have it all figured out and just everything I do is right. Absolutely not. I handled that wrong. And I paid the price. I paid the price financially. I paid the price emotionally. I paid the price by embroiling other people into shenanigans with someone who didn't even like me. Girl, I'm embarrassed with all the Z's. And I did that because I was extending myself, thinking that I was going to find the miracle cure for the entity that was attached to the zombie. I'm not Jesus the Christ. I am not God. I am not Muhammad. I am not Buddha. So that was not something that was going to be relegated to me. My angels did not ask me to find the cure. They did not ask me to help her through her existential crisis. They said, get out. Very much that. Back to Jordan Peele. Get out. They said, they've gone rogue. And my angels in that case actually gave me a dream 2 days before that exchange happened. The major exchange where I should have left, where she literally went rogue even in my dream. And so pay attention to all the signs and symbols. But what did I do? Out of loyalty and my humanity and my own ego, I decided I knew better than the signs that I have come so accustomed to know. And I do not want you guys to befall that same fate, because as I look back in retrospect, I was only mad at myself and I only had myself to blame. When you start paying karmic prices and karmic NSF fees, non-sufficient funds, because that means a relationship is defunct and empty. So all the love that you're pouring into a relationship is gone. When someone goes rogue, it's empty. There's nothing else to draw from. And so I was the one who had to pay those NSF fees, spiritually speaking. I had to actually fork out money. I had to actually spend time to have someone treat me like shit to my face, when I knew right away that it was not what it was supposed to be, that they had gone rogue on the day that they talked crazy to me. And my angels even precursed it with a dream, because they knew that I was going to have a hard time accepting the reality, because I had love for that person in perpetuity. I loved them so dearly, and I did not want to release or let go. I did not want, I'm like, say it ain't so. I did not want it to be that way. I wanted to attend to it during the period of amnesty. I wanted us to come to Jesus moment and have the real conversation. I wanted honesty. I wanted authenticity, even if it was ugly. A lot of times people will lie to you because they think that you don't want to know the ugly truth of whatever it is. And for me, always tell me the ugly truth than the pretty lie, because that pretty lie is going to make me say bye, 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 because it still qualifies as a lie. And that's just not a frequency I even want to entertain. That is not something that I want attached to my name. That kind of gaslighting makes people insane. And when I feel off kilter, I will flip it and reverse it and pass that back to you. Except you will never have access. And that is exactly what has to happen with you and the zombie too. They can never have access to you. Because when someone repeatedly makes that choice after months and years and days of being able to speak up and use their voice or do a different thing or live in integrity, even if it was uncomfortable and ugly at the time, then that is a choice they will make with you, and with you, and with you. I need you to be so specific and understand that, with you, time after time. You may see them, like the lady crying on TikTok in the next relationship, being a peach, going on vacation, and thinking, oh my goodness, I hope they treat these people better, or wow, look at that, they were capable, they were. But whatever was going on in your soulmate contract means it was never supposed to go that way. That they were maybe supposed to lie to your face, and you were supposed to strengthen your discernment, and you were supposed to look past what was the obvious lie between the truth. You were supposed to tell the truth to yourself. Maybe you needed to look at your codependency and heal some things there. Were you still people-pleasing, even though you thought you had extricated and pulled a lot of that out by the root? There was still a little bit left in me, and I was surprised to see that I was giving grace after amnesty, when the angels and the ancestors said, we told you to cut yourself free. This relationship can no longer be. So I want you guys to observe that and understand, when you're dealing with a zombie, there is no room for negotiation. If you get the call spiritually, emotionally, and energetically to cut off someone because toxic behavior is a portion that they want to deal out to thee, never second guess it. Because if you do, just like me, you will pay for it too. And then you'll be like kicking yourself like, wow, that's something I really didn't have to do. Now, fortunately, we're covered by our ancestors and angels, even though it may not seem like it when we're talking about all of this. And so it never gets as bad as it could, fortunately. But you will be tested, and you will have to hone your intuition in the dark. But because I've dealt with much worse things, then this didn't completely fall apart, but I still subjected myself to unnecessary interactions, time, and pain that I didn't have to. All because I was trying to do some Monette before the upgrades, something that Monette from before the upgrades would do, which is say, but I love you. And I do love people, and I never want that to be stripped out of me. But I am so grateful that now I clearly see, and I move a lot more swiftly. And that is imperative to your survival on these spiritual streets, is moving expeditiously when the zombies are trying to eat your feet. Real talk. All right. So that's the message I have for you today. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Comment below if you have any zombie stories of people that have gone rogue. Did you leave fast? Were you still in with codependency? Were you able to see? Or did someone live in their authenticity and communicate so that y'all could mend the relationship during the amnesty before the cosmic timer, ding, went off and it could no longer be? So many good things to talk about down there. I love you guys. Come back and join me next time. We'll continue to evolve together.